this meeting is a lot more not going broadcasted broadly as wide. It's broadcasted within the CTP network, within the GIMI network. And we are talking about specific programs that are making a difference in terms of impact for GIMI. GIMI objectives are always the same. How do we train 1 million people in 5 years? That's the objective. To get to that million, there are many ways to get there. One is to train 1 student at a time, or to train 50 students at one time, or to be able to put them on programs in companies and a company trains all of them at one time, or a government like Sabrai says, we're going to train 1,000 people at one time. But we need to get 1 million. And we look for creative ways in which people are doing this. And we have talked about many different ways in the past of how we do this, whether it's the 10X program in Colombia that is taking 800 small businesses across the country, training individuals in small businesses as one example. In Brazil, we talk about Sabrai, which is responsible for driving small businesses across the country to make sure that they become better and more competitive, and they have growth trajectories and maybe even become unicorns. So there they focus only specifically on this one with the CEOs and the mindset. And so leadership was a big part of what Sabrai did. We have done similar things in terms of training programs in government. And Rafa is not here, but the government of Dubai and even the government of Qatar are basically saying our governments need to become innovative. So can our governments be trained and drive them at scale? There is no segment GIMI is not attacking. GIMI is attacking the leaders of Fortune 500 companies, the leaders of SMEs, the leaders of universities, the leaders of government from the leadership program. GIMI is also attacking the opportunity to train teams so that the teams can actually execute, because the unit of execution of innovation is not individuals, but it's teams, collaborating teams. And so in Brazil and in Colombia and in Malaysia and Singapore and other places, we've taken multiple companies with teams and driven them forward, and they all get certified on innovation also. Today, we have got a very interesting and different program. This program is also using innovation to help companies do something that they were not able to do. And if you look at the product market matrix, current product, current market, that means doing something in your own neighborhood with your current products and tweaking them, to changing the market or changing the product. That's innovation. Looking at new markets or looking at new products. We've been talking a lot about new products and new services and new offerings, mainly with the 10X program that we've talked about before. What Manuel today is going to speak about is expanding into new geographic markets. And how do you do that? And you don't just go and say, I've got this widget and I'm going to replicate that exactly in another country. You will have to customize it. You got to Americanize it. You got to tropicalize it. You got to Asianize it. And you got to think of the local conditions, the business models, the competitiveness of the local area, and do something different. And then on the top right, new products and new services is usually where Fortune 500 companies are looking for. Governments are looking for. Economic districts are looking for. What's the newest thing that creates competitive advantage for us? So it's on a matrix of products and markets. Our GIMI offerings fall very well in the 4 quadrants. Today, we have got Manuel Mendes, who has been driving market expansion. Companies from South America, from Europe, from all over the world into other countries. And he's going to talk about a remarkable story on how this can be done using GIMI methodologies, but also at the same time doing it at scale. Not one company at a time, but a large number of companies at all. So let me welcome Manuel Mendes. If we can maybe highlight Manuel. And I'll also highlight myself so we can talk a little bit as we get started. So Manuel, first, thank you for being on this particular think tank. Give you a background of the people in the audience. The audience are from all over the world. I mean, all over, from all the way from Japan and Hong Kong and Malaysia, Korea, to India, to the Middle East, in Jordan, to Dubai, to Qatar, to Saudi Arabia, to Turkey, Italy, Belgium, Norway, and in the audience are also people from the Americas, Canada, the United States, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Peru. And so this is a very global meeting, and they're all eager to learn about this remarkable things that you've been working on. And it's about internationalization. So why don't you begin by just for my sake, Manuel, where were you born? What did you study? And how did you get interested in the topic of innovation and internationalization?
Okay, so thank you, HP. Thank you for inviting me to talk here at the Global Think Tank. A lot of friends and common faces here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for those who are assisting us today. I am originally from Brazil. My first connection with internationalization was during the 90s. I've started a business back in Brazil when the economy was opening up there, and I've started a business of international trading. I've established a trading company in Miami. Then it worked for over 6 years. We've surfed in the wave of cell phones. The cell phone technology was also starting in Brazil. We became one of the main distributors of cell phones there. Then different products, imported products. Then a while after, I've moved to real estate development. When I was working with real estate, I had the opportunity to work with different investment funds from Europe, Denmark, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, Italy. And I was again doing something connected to global markets, but now driving investments from Europe to Brazil for real estate development. And then finally in 2013, I moved to US to pursue my MBA here in Boston, where I'm talking today. And since 2014, I became a partner of IXL, and I've started this practice of helping companies to go international from different geographies, mainly to US, but we are also helping companies to go to Brazil, from Colombia to Central America, and so on.
And Manuel, what you're going to talk about is applicable to any company in any industry, in any geography, and everything else. And so you have found that there are some basic methodologies or approaches that can apply to any industry from any country, anywhere. And I hope you're going to be sharing some of that today in the presentation. Is that correct? And are you going to present that to us today?
That's right. So for today, I brought a case story that we've done with a government agency from Brazil. It's called Apex. It's similar to ProColombia or ProPeru that I see here, Guillermo, Henrique. And it's the government agency of Brazil that supports companies to export or to go international. And they came to us asking for help to, let's say, work with 50 companies at the same time in the food industry.
And Manuel, just to get the credibility established, how many companies on average have you actually helped internationalize as a professional?
So from 2014, talking about this methodology of helping companies to come from one region to another, approximately 400 companies. And everything started when I was doing a course at Harvard. It was a class of innovation and entrepreneurship. And I was challenged by the professor to come up with an idea to help Brazilian companies to establish themselves in US. And that's how everything began.
Okay, good. So look, we're excited. There's a lot of theory around what you are talking about. There's a lot of experience of 400 companies. there's a success results, and you got a case study to share with us. So I'm going to stop talking. Manuel, tell us the story, and then we'll come back in about 20-25 minutes, and we'll open the floor up for questions from everybody else. And from them, that maybe they will learn about how you do it, and maybe create other collaboration opportunities so that we can scale this program around the world and indirectly drive for GIMI training on innovation and certificates of innovation. Thank you, Manuel. You have the floor.
Thank you, HP. So I will share my screen now. And let me check if you guys can see my screen. All good?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start. I've brought here today a presentation that I'd like to, let's say, accomplish 5 things with you. First of all, trying to show and tell this Apex Brazil case story, then trying to share some learnings and thoughts that we have around this topic of internationalization and innovation, and also trying to show to you how the parallel is established between those two practices. Of course, get you to know the program and get excited to bring this program to your region. It's a very, let's say, it's a brand new program that we have started by the end of 2021, and we are continuing now 2022. Of course, exchange ideas, how can we bring to your region, and clarify any questions by the end of the presentation. We have I'm planning to cover here 5 topics. The first one is to try to provide you context about the challenge that we came up with, then how we've set up the approach to solve the challenge, what were the results in the end of the process, and some key success factors that I could share with you that could be applicable to your consulting businesses or to your businesses itself. And then finally, of course, Q&A. So first, just explaining a little bit about the challenge itself. As I've mentioned to you before, Apex is a Brazilian agency company. It's funded by the government of Brazil. They've been around for over 2 decades with office around the world, and they help Brazilian companies to export or to go international. Okay, and this government agency came to us by the end of last year, actually second semester last year around August, and they asked us to build a program with them that was completely new, something completely new. And basically, they wanted to help not only one company at the time, as they used to do for the past 20 years, but a group of companies. And their goal was to recruit 50 companies and drive those 50 companies all along the way in 6 months to the, let's say, final results or goals. And we helped them to, let's say, recruit those companies. In the end, we had 48 companies. We suggested them to divide those companies in 2 cohorts. We did 1 cohort from August to October, approximately, and then another one from November until the end of December. And those companies, they came from 5 different segments inside the industry of food and beverage, processed foods, in natura foods, ingredients, alcoholic beverage, and non-alcoholic beverage, such as coffee, juice, and so on. And of course, the goal was the US market. They wanted to enter in the US market. This program was a pilot to be extended to other regions. They are thinking about Colombia, they are thinking about India, they are thinking about Italy in Europe, and so on. Any questions, HP? Should I move on?
No, this is great. So again, I think it's fantastic that we are setting the stage up It's a focus on the food industry, but you could have done this in the shoe industry, or it could have been done in the cosmetics industry or any other industry. They were just focusing by cluster because they thought it was better to do it in that way. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, Apex has 51 industries that they formally support in Brazil, and they thought that based in their experience research, food and beverages is one of the industries that Brazil is strongest and more differentiated. That's why they started with food and beverage. That's right. So then I'd like to also to share with you in the very beginning, in order to understand those companies' profile and their objectives, we did some research with them, and we came up with 5 objectives that were common to most of them. The first one is to increase sales and profitability. The second one was to diversify risks. The third one was to identify new business opportunities. The fourth one, to develop strategic partnerships. Partnerships such as, let's say, know-how transferring, or let's say even capital raising, those type of strategic partnerships. And of course, try to strengthen or improve their brand position in Brazil, because it also has a side effect in the country, as we are going to see next. Then they also had common challenge. One of the first common challenge was to how to, let's say, for some of them, how to export their product, because you're going to see the mix of companies was very diverse. So there were companies of 7 billion reais, or let's say $1.5 billion, that were already in the market. There were companies that were very small, doing the sale in US for the first time. Then they also wanted to understand the market where they were going to start, how they would go. They would go to test the product, and to understand what were the product, the adaptation of the product, necessary adaptations, how they would penetrate this market, and finally, how they would generate the first sale, or sales that they wanted to drive to a different channel. The companies that were more mature, they were already, let's say, accessing the market through distributors, and they wanted to change from distributors to retailers or to online commerce, different channels that would add a higher margin to their existing business in US. And then it's also important for you to understand what were the constraints, or the let's say, the difficulties that we had from both sides, Apex and the companies that were participating in this program. Apex came to us with some, let's say, conditions. First, they wanted to, let's say, generate those results in a short time frame. It was a time frame of 6 months for all the 48 companies. They had a restricted budget, and that's how we end up building this cohort-based program. They had, let's say, limited recruitment capability, so we had to help them to recruit those companies, and not only recruit, but also select the best ones. Dual agendas. They had some people inside the government agency that were clearly concerned about market intelligence reports, and others that were very concerned about delivering sales results, or results that would help companies to do the next step. And they had no preview recipe for success. Like we were building something from the scratch. They've never did this before. It was something completely new. From the company side, they they were, let's say, as I said to you, some of them new, so they didn't know which product they would choose or which candidate they would select in order to sell in US. Even the big companies, those billion-dollar companies, they had a huge portfolio of products, and they wanted to understand which one would fit better with the retailers or with the online channels and so on. They had multiple possibilities of target markets in US. It could be Florida, California, New England, and they also didn't know how to select this. Different channels to market. Some of them were looking for distributors because they were coming for the first time. Some of them retailers or, let's say, online channels to increase margins. And of course, leadership team had competing agendas because, of course, this program for some of them was a program that was, let's say, driving 5-10% of the revenue, the most for those companies that were mature, and they had another business that they needed to run that was responsible for 90% of their revenues. And then they were all looking for very short-term results. It was necessary to align their expectation very well in order to, let's say, generate the results they were looking for. Then talking about the approach, how did we do that, knowing all those constraints and knowing all those diverse type of expectations, companies' maturity, markets, channels. The first thing we let's say agreed with them were the deliverables that we would achieve with this process, and we also defined a very clear deliverables, 5 deliverables, 1 deliverable for each step of the process. The first one was a very clear agenda for each one of the companies, and that was something very unique about this challenge, was the fact that we were able to personalize the approach and the results. So in the very beginning, we were aligned with the CEO of the company about basic things about such as the product candidates, target regions, and revenue expectation, commitment with investment, and so on. That was key for us to understand what was the ideal success for that company. Then, of course, we had to help them, first thing, to understand where they would start with their expansion journey. Then, inside that region, Florida, California, New England, try to understand where they would play in, the competitors' profile, the strategic moves, so they could beat those competitors and so on. Then once we had this understanding about market competition, we would test the offering and improve this offering for them, and finally help them to initiate some go-to-market, let's say, activities. And I believe that was something that was critical for our success, was the fact that we were not promising them, let's say, sales results. We were promising them that we would set up them for success, and we would help them to test how to approach the clients. And of course, after this process, they would be ready to go by themselves to the market and to activate the channels they would like to. Then,
Manuel, before you go there, I think what people are going to ask is, where in this whole methodology, as you're sharing it, are the opportunities for innovation? Where things are happening? It's clear. Companies want to move into, let's say, another geography. And in order to do that, what you're saying is you cannot just drop what your products and services are and show up and say, here I am, I'm going to win.
That's right.
So where is the first of all, opportunities for innovation? And you can continue through your presentation, tell us where it's going to be. But we're very interested, where would the opportunity for innovation that created a distinct difference and therefore a winning strategy for these companies? All right. So,
Perfect.
and how do you prepare the mindset of the CEOs to actually do that?
Sure. So I think I will take advantage of this slide that shows the approach, the step-by-step process, and I will answer your question, HP. But the innovation is, I would say, in the very beginning of the process, when you are thinking about how to penetrate the market, you need to understand very clearly what you need to change in terms of your product, or what you need to adapt in terms of brand positioning. A lot of things that you need to think differently than your current market. What we do in the very beginning is we try to understand how the business works in the current market, and then we research the target market and we compare the differences. And then there it is the first set of innovation. It is when you compare how the target market works and how you are working in Brazil, for instance. Then you need to do a set of changes in terms of production process, delivery, offering, and marketing. But of course, we are talking about incremental changes because we don't want for those companies to take a huge risk. We are not talking about disruptive innovation here. We are talking about incremental changes where they can take most of what they already do and their experience, their expertise, and transfer to a new market, right? So innovation happens a lot inside the phase called Design How to Win, where they will benchmark the competitors and adapt the offering. And then, of course, the fact of experimentation is key for the success of this methodology as well. And everything that you think about lean, agile, and all those innovation, let's say, tools and techniques, they are applied in phase 4 when we are testing the market and very fast adapting the brochures. We build prototypes for them. It could be a brochure, it could be a website, and we test in the market and we keep changing. We start with a brochure 1.0 and we go on to brochure 6.0 in the last phase of the process. And of course, when you are approaching the sales cycle and you are getting to the market, there are a lot of changes in terms of how you sell, right? How you pitch your product. We usually say that you need to adapt your pitch not only for each country but also for each channel, for each product. So there are a lot of adaptations in the process, and this flexible mindset, open mindset, is very important. And we set up in the very beginning the CEO for those type of let's say changes and this expectation alignment in order for them to provide support for the team and let the team make small changes during this process. I think just one thing that it is important to mention in terms of the process, you see here, we have 7 weeks. We were doing this entire process in 7 weeks, a little bit more than 2 months. And the first 3 phases, you can see that were very fast, getting to know the company, align expectations, understand the market based in market research, primary, secondary, and then benchmarking competitors. Those things we could do faster. Then when you get to the 4th step, that it is to improve the marketing offering, it is a little bit longer because you need to schedule meetings. You need to, let's say, iterate and improve the marketing collaterals, sales, even the product itself sometimes. And then the 5th step of the process also requires more time because you are already asking for opinion from your potential buyers, and those buyers will give you more details about what you need to improve, adapt, change in order to be able to enter in the market. And for every one of those steps we had a show and tell, as we say, a show and tell meeting with the CEO of those companies and the executive team in order to show the progress, to ask for support, and to get aligned in terms of decisions. It was very important that the fact they were giving us feedback and being part of this co-creation process every step of the journey, right? Then talking about the team for this program was also something very unique and robust. Basically, we've invited 10 different mentors, 5 mentors for each cohort. And those mentors were responsible for a certain number of companies, 5 companies in general. And each one of those mentors, they had one team made of 2 up to 3 people that were from universities in US. We've partnered with different universities. And each one of those companies would have a research team made of 2 up to 3 MBA students and one dedicated mentor that was a very experienced consultant and had experience working internationally. And then this team was supported by experts in different fields. You could say, I need someone who knows a lot about branding, food and beverage, or I need someone who knows a lot about food service channel. And we would have someone from our team to help that mentor or that company. And then this team was also supported by, let's say, an IT specific team, because they had everything in cloud. It was a project that was completely managed by a software that we've developed for this specific purpose, and helped a lot for us to move those companies all at the same time with the same, let's say, steps throughout the 7 weeks. So this team was also a big part of the success, because we had a very local, let's say, point of view. At the same time, we were connected to experts that were looking to the big picture. We had a very structured agenda. As we've mentioned before, we had client meetings every step of the process. And every week we were getting together as a team to work in the challenge during the Monday afternoon. We were, let's say, getting to agreement with the company team what we would do that specific week in terms of the program process. Then we would have check-in points during the week with the company team. And then finally, we had client meetings to show and tell our results, everything very, let's say, precisely planned. And it was, again, another, let's say, success factor was the fact that in the very beginning of the program, we locked all the calendar for the entire program with the CEO of the company and the executive team. And by doing that, we were able to have let's say, a smoother process, right? And as I've mentioned before, we had different tools to manage this process. One of them was a software that we manage everything virtually. Every step of the process was possible to be done by software. Then we had a software to manage the project itself. And our communication tool was Zoom. We were conducting every meeting virtually. Even the teams, sometimes they were going to site visits to look for competitors, to talk to partners and prospects. But most of the process was done virtually. Talking about the client was 100% virtually. And then finally, talking a little bit about results, I'm going to go here a little bit faster. I'm going to talk about 5 key results we were able to, let's say, generate for those companies. You're going to see we are bringing here 5 different graphics, all of them showing the, let's say, the status of the company before the program, we did a survey with the companies, asking them where they were in the very beginning of the program in terms of the let's say, market intelligence. Were they, let's say, comfortable with their market intelligence knowledge? And they were always saying, no, I am weak, or I don't have any market intelligence, or I am moderate, happy or satisfied with my market intelligence knowledge. And then you're going to see that on the right side of the slide, after the program, the graphic changed completely, and all the companies now are, let's say, moderated, satisfied, strongly satisfied, or they have a unique knowledge about market intelligence. And we did this, let's say, survey or this analysis of the gaps for each one of those 5 key areas that we wanted to improve. The first one was the market intelligence, where to play. The second one was the how to win, or how good did you know your competitors, and strategic moves to beat your competition. Again, you can see graphics go from top left to top right, and you can see the evolution of those companies in this front. Then again, the product market fit, everything we did for them to improve their knowledge in terms of the product market fit. You can see here, most of them were weak. Even companies that were bigger, they were working through distributors, and the distributors don't pass the information to those companies in general. So they didn't have a lot of, let's say, knowledge in terms of the product market fit. And then some of them then said that they had unique knowledge in terms of the product market fit, if you see. Then finally, the penetration strategy. And here, the only thing I want to highlight is the fact that we were developing a penetration strategy that was completely local. And I usually say that if you want to, let's say, enter in a market that as big as US, it's better for you to think about winning, not a region like Florida, but winning a neighborhood. Not winning a city, not winning a state, winning a neighborhood. Because the competitiveness is so high that you need to understand very well your competitor in your neighborhood. And of course, the market size is also big. So the reward is big. And if you win a small city or a small neighborhood, can be already as big as your current market in your home country. And finally, partners in sales. Here you can also see the graphic. Most of them had none connections or weak confidence about their ability to access the market. And then by the end of the program, some of them said, I have now unique access to the market, or unique ability to enter in the market. Some of them is strong and moderate. So by looking to these graphics, you can see the type of results we have delivered throughout the program. And then key success factors, I would just highlight 4 big buckets that I've selected here for you guys. It's my last slide. And
Manuel, as you tell the stories, it would be really wonderful if you could say, for one of these companies, this is what the CEO was facing and how we got the alignment or the approach or even the result. Because these are outcomes that we want, but if you can bring them to life with specific stories or examples, that'd be great.
Yeah. So we have some companies that after this process, they've continued the journey, right? And some of them by themselves, some of them they looked for help. So we have interesting cases. We have, let's say, companies that were representing a Brazilian, let's say, meat brand. They were selling protein, And this protein company in Brazil is a $1 billion company, and they gave to this small distributor one product that they didn't introduce in the US market. This specific client, we asked them about the channel. They didn't know any, they didn't have any idea. And we suggested them to go to the, we call here, the Mercado da Saudade. For the Brazilians here in the call, they're gonna know what it is. It's the ethical market, or the ethical, let's say, channel. We have very small shops of food and beverage in US for Brazilian clients, for Colombian clients, for Peruvian clients. And this guy went through this specific channel, and he was very successful by introducing this specific product. Another one, a probiotics company, they went through an online strategy with Amazon. They tested the product at Amazon. That's very common nowadays. First, they use Amazon to test the product. Then once they get traction, once they get reviews, then they go to other retailers. And this is also another way to do it. So this company is already finishing the stage of testing the online channel, and they are now getting to the retailers in order to, let's say, talk with the big dogs. You need to create a history. And a good way to create this history is testing Amazon. And now Amazon even has a partnership with Amazon US and Amazon Brazil. They just did a partnership where they are shipping products from Brazil straight to US through FedEx in very special conditions. So they are giving more opportunity for Brazilian brands to test the market. And of course, we have big companies. I'm giving you the third example. We had a company in the pasta and biscuits industry. It's again a $1 billion company in Brazil. And they were using only distributors as the main channel. And we've developed for them strategies so they could penetrate first regional markets, such as Publix in Florida. And then they could go, let's say, national with chains like Walmart or, let's say, Target. So depending on the type of company size and product, we select different channels. And this is a good thing. It's a good opportunity to mention, HP, that the biggest challenge is not to, let's say, develop the market. The biggest challenge is for the companies to keep up with the growth. Because once it is tough to get your product to a shelf, but once you get the product there, then the numbers are so big that sometimes the companies, they don't have the capacity to meet the demand. And that's one concern we have in the very beginning, to explain to them, look, you cannot talk to Walmart right now. First, start with this one, and then once you have the complete control of the process, you can go talk to the big ones. So that's, I hope I illustrate your question, right?
Good. Manuel, we've got maybe 15 minutes to go to the end of this webinar. If you can kind of bring it to a close, and then we can do some Q&A, yeah?
Sure. So basically, the last thoughts I'd like to share with you, let me share my screen here. So key success factors, I think it is important to highlight here. We've ranked here 4, let's say, areas that I believe are important for you to take in consideration while going international. The first one is the strategic alignment, right? Having let's say, the expectations very well aligned with the client, even in terms of horizons. this is what I'm going to do in the first year, second year, third year, and what is the commitment you need from them, and what are the roles of engagement in terms of them being present, them being available to produce whatever are the changes that are necessary in terms of the product and so on. The methodology, I would say what is unique about this program is the fact that the methodology was anchored in terms of innovation to adapt the company, experimentation to test the market and generate leads, and collaboration to move faster and cheaper, right? Then the approach, of course, we had a very structured approach, and I think every piece matters because you need to have a good team, but also personalized touch. You need to have, let's say, process and systems to put discipline in place, and of course, being in front of the client every step of the process. And then the team, the fact that we had local people going to supermarkets, testing the product with clients, that's a huge difference. And the clients also said that the fact that you have experienced consultants is also good, because sometimes the client has something in mind that it is not feasible, and you already went through this journey, and you know, and you give advice to the client, and the client is very pleased. Actually, they like it. They love the meetings we had with the senior consultants that were giving them advice, and the experts on demand, because sometimes you need to talk about branding, you need to talk about digital marketing, and those guys, they can help us a lot by bringing their experience to the table. I think that's it, HP. From my side, I would say with those key learnings and success factors, I would open up for questions.
Excellent. So, Manuel, first of all, it's a great story. You guys took a large number of companies from Brazil. Many of them didn't speak English. Many of them had no experience about what the United States was. And you had to do this in a very short time frame. And you were able to do that. And end result of this thing is there's a program that takes advantage of some of the GIMI programs that gets us to understand what's going on and how we do this, right? Can you share, somebody please make sure I am also being presented here so we can talk to each other. Thank you. And Manuel.
Sorry.
Of course. So, Manuel, why do you believe this is a program that could be applied to Mexico or to Malaysia or to other countries? What does Brazil have that's the same as these other countries, so that it's an applicable opportunity?
So, HP, first, let's think about the market, right? If we are talking about US as the target market, and out of those 400 companies we've worked with since 2014, 80% of them were looking for entering the US market, okay? So if we are talking about the US market, I would say, first of all, US is now, let's say, pretty much made of every ethnical group you can imagine in the country. We have, let's say, Russians drinking vodka. We have Mexicans. The Mexican food is very, let's say, nowadays very popular in US. We have Colombians. We have Brazilians. So every market segment has a small or a big potential here in US, depending on what you are selling. But you have a client, you have a customer, right? The second thing is that US, let's say, customers in general, they are very open to try different things, as long as you have a minimum adaptation to what they consume. Let's say, if you are bringing a new type of ice cream, as long as you have vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry in your portfolio of flavors, you're gonna sell. So they like novelties, they like to try different things. And if you're thinking about countries that can offer a new experience, they're gonna go for it. And the third thing, I think it is the necessity of companies to get exposure. And what we also saw in this program is that we have even a graphic that shows 75% of the companies that were building their strategy to go international, they've learned something to apply in their home country. And that's something that most of the companies, they don't realize, that the internationalization is not only a matter of selling abroad, but also to think different and to change the business in their home country. So the necessity to know the world, the competition, what is happening outside, and what it will arrive in your country very soon, because US is always 5 years ahead in terms of product launching, customer experience, marketing, is also very important. I would say those three things to start.
Oh, that's great insights. So the first one is sorry, I'm getting an echo for somebody. The first insight, of course, is that the market in the US is somewhat representative of the markets of every country. So why not consider the US market as a market expansion? Second one is, of course, all the companies in every country is looking for growth and market expansion for new revenues. Right? So it should apply to everybody. Now, I remember during our discussion, you had mentioned that you found some surprisingly interesting insights, that when you ask people why they're expanding and they would like to expand to another country, they gave you the logical reason: I want new revenues and new markets. But you said that there was another reason why people were doing this, which they don't say it and they don't even know that that's the reason why they're doing it. What were those interesting things that you found out when you talked to those hundreds of companies and CEOs?
Yeah. So, there is a profile for the CEO and of course for the executive team that succeeds. I usually cross CEOs that are very innovative and also open-minded if we are talking with a company that it is planning to go international. The companies that are usually looking only for sales, they give up in the very beginning of the journey, because they see that they need to do adaptations, or they need to take risks that they are not willing to. In the very beginning, they think it is easy, but then when they see there are a few barriers, they stop. So most of them are very innovative. And when you talk to those guys, they are not looking for revenue. They are looking for meeting interesting people. They are looking for access new talent. They are looking for, let's say, just getting to know competitors in their target market. So there are a lot of things they are looking for that are not spoken. And especially when you do a survey with someone who is a manager, or let's say the head of export area in a company, they think the main thing for the CEO is to increase sales. But when you talk to the CEO who is the decision maker, maybe it is the succession of the family. They want to give access to their family members to something bigger, something, let's say, that will help them to build their mind and to open up their vision to the world.
That's great. And while we're doing this, I would like to see people put their hands up and see if there's any questions from anybody on what we're doing. Manuel, in terms of innovation, we have a value chain where we say you can innovate around the customer groups themselves and the experiences. We can talk about channels to market. We can talk about products and offering and packaging. We can also talk about business models and how to do something, or even how to produce things. When you look at the opportunities for market expansion, which were the levers that were more important to focus on? Because when we talk about innovation, we talk about everything. Everything can change, and anything and anything that creates a disruption makes a big difference. Which were the specific things that we can narrow the set of the innovation focus and say we should focus mainly on packaging, or maybe we should just focus on Americanizing the product? What were the lessons learned?
So there are a few things that you need to do that in order to comply with regulation, right? Of course, you need to change packaging, but it is minor changes, right? Or you need to change packaging because you are selling at Sam's Club and the sizes are different than Publix. So of course, you need to do some small adaptations, but I would say the one that is the simplest and the one that companies fail the most is how they communicate their product to the market. It's amazing how companies get surprised when they go talk to potential clients and the clients start giving them feedback in terms of how they are communicating their product to the market. Sometimes it is the name that cannot be applicable to the target market. Sometimes are the colors, you know. So there are very simple things that you can change that are completely, let's say, game changers in the process.
Excellent. You know, the world is full of mistakes, and we've seen American companies going to Japan, whether it was 7-Eleven, and they basically screwed it up because the culture was not ready to accept the 7-Eleven as the American way. And so there's a lot of cultural elements inside here understanding culture. And then also on top of that, normally when you send the team to work on that market expansion, you sometimes send a junior team also, and not necessarily the best team, because you're going to war. You're going to war in another country, and you're going to war. And so there's something about the team and the culture, the need to understand which part do we keep and which one do we let go, and there's resistance to all that. Again, from the team structure, a winning team structure. What's a winning team from the company side that might be able to deliver a winning outcome versus they give up? Because it is entrepreneurship. It is entrepreneurial. Right. It is innovative, and they've got to do a lot of new things. And there are 1,000 reasons to stop. Tell me something about the team dynamics, and I'm going to ask Dan to ask the next question.
Perfect. So HP, regarding the team, I would say there are three, let's say, elements that comes to my mind right now. You have to have a strong leadership presence and support, you know, because you are building something for the first time. It's like starting, I usually say, it's like starting your business again, right? You are starting something from the scratch, completely unknown, a lot of risks, and of course, rewards. And the leadership team needs to be present to take decisions, to take risks. If you don't have a strong leadership, the idea will die. The second one is you need to be innovative, right? Because as we are talking here, you need to change a lot of things, even if it is incremental. Sometimes it is hard for companies to change and to accept they need to change. Sometimes they are very proud of their product, idea, brand, and they don't want to change, right? So you need to be open for the change. And finally, as you've mentioned now, you need to be very entrepreneurial. It's a lot of testing, adapting, and testing again and adapting until the point that you got the right customer or you got the right product market fit. So you need to be very entrepreneurial in the sense how you perceive the customer and how when you see the eyes of the customer, let's say blink, or let's say be more open, then you need to move on, right?
Excellent. Daniel, you have your hand up. I hope you got a question, and I hope you're going to stump or challenge Manuel in what he's doing.
Well, yeah, what I'm going to say is for well over 50 years, probably 70 years now, the United States has been the leader in consumption in the world and the model that everyone turns to. Everyone wants to go there. But in recent times, people have been looking at, instead of nation boundaries, looking at demographic boundaries. Where do you have demographics that are similar to the United States in other parts of the world? And so I'm wondering, as the world is changing, is this something that you think could apply to, for instance, parts of Latin America, Asia, certainly, Europe, the Gulf states, which are now in a position to be consumers? Do you think the same things could apply?
Well, Don, first of all, thank you for your question. Yes, we just brought, by November last year, we brought 140 Brazilians to Dubai, okay? And a lot of them inside the food industry. And they were basically applying the same knowledge they had previously to a new region. But the knowledge is not about the market; it's the mindset. They are now more, let's say, flexible. They are now more sharper, and then it becomes easier for them to, let's say, learn about the market and to, let's say, change and to penetrate the market. I would say opportunities are everywhere, and sometimes when we work with companies one by one, then we test usually 3 up to 5 markets at the same time to understand which one is the best market. We just finished a program with a company from Brazil. They were a health tech company based in São Paulo, again, and they went to Colombia, US, Dubai, Philippines, and India, all at the same time, to check which one was the best market. And then they came back to us and they thought about doing only 2 markets at the time, because it's not possible to do too many or to open up too many fronts at the same time, right? But yes, you can definitely apply learnings in different geographies, and there are opportunities in different geographies for the same product or company.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. I see a hand up from Cristanto. So Cristanto, please start your question and see what you have to say.
Hello, good evening. Cristanto from Jakarta. Good morning to you all in US and Brazil. I happen to spend my career in the food business for about 5 years. Back in the early 80s to the 87, before I decided to quit and become consultant. And I also helped to establish the Indonesian Food Innovation Center. But to be frank, we don't know what to do with the association. Okay, so I think this is a very good opportunity if we can actually launch a similar program like what Manuel did for Brazil. I have all of the network on the Association of Food and Beverage Manufacturers in Indonesia, and I also have to think about what to do with our Indonesian Food Innovation Center. Happen to run the office in my office, so I think it's a good idea. It's just a question of feasibility, but my only question is, being in the food sectors, when I involved in the associations, and then we gather people from different companies to make a common program together for the association, most of the executives shut their mouth. They don't want to tell about their company and whatever secrets and things like that. But my question to Manuel, how do you open their mouth so that they can collaborate? They are willing to share. Are you selecting companies who are not competitive to each other? Thank you.
Great question, Crisanto. I'm going to start by answering that this program can be done by clusters, right? It could be food and beverage, it could be, let's say, equipments, it could be any fashion industry, whatever. But it can be also multi-company or multi-industry. as we also did a few times before. The fact the company has a cohort of 20, 25 businesses, it doesn't mean that those businesses, they will, let's say, keep connected or interacting each other. It is made by 25 companies only for the scale purpose of to decrease costs, you know. So we will have a team of consultants for each one of those companies, and all the secrets of those companies or the strategies, they are unique for that specific company, and nobody knows what that company is doing, or they don't share each other the same, let's say, information or even the teams. But they do share, let's say, if you want to have a economy of scale, if you want to go for a fair, it can be a virtual fair, it can be an in-presence fair. Then they can get together and they can fund the event because it becomes cheaper to everyone, right? We foster the collaboration, but the collaboration is between the companies in their home countries and the partners in the target market. Distribution partners, logistic partners, marketing partners, point of sales partners. So those partners are very important for the company market expansion, but they don't need to be, they will not be necessarily, let's say, sharing information or even the strategy.
So what I believe Manuel and the team has been able to accomplish is provide each company privacy, confidentiality, and consulting, like how one consulting team will work with one company. But they've been able to do it in a cohort model, and they can actually scale it out because they do it in parallel. There's common instructions and methodology, but the content and the discovery is unique and saved within each team. And that team works for each client. And as a result, each client feels that they are only working with one team, but the program manager knows they're managing 50 teams in parallel. And each team is getting an outcome which is high quality. And therefore, the price of what you would normally charge to any one company to do this is now distributed to some extent across the 50 companies, and therefore becomes affordable for smaller companies. And that's the name of the game. The name of the game is, how do we take this at scale? And one other thing I think, Manuel, as we wrap this, so just one more minute now, the use of students has got tremendous advantages, student consultants, because of many reasons. Can you just give us 3 things why student teams are fantastic versus the company trying to get this information, or even consultants trying to get this information?
Yeah. So let's say students are always the target market somehow, because they represent a market segmentation. It could be millennials, it could be centennials, it could be X generation. They are definitely a target market, and they already give a lot of inputs regarding this specific market that we are talking about. The other thing is that they bring out of the box ideas. Like students love the fact that clients love the fact that students are, let's say, bringing fresh ideas from the university, from their peers, from different perspectives that a consultant, a classic consultant, is not able to access, right? It can be a different generation, it could be a different environment. They talk to professors, they talk to friends. It's a different perspective. And I would say the third one is from a sales point of view. Students can access basically any place, anywhere, by saying, I am doing a research, I am doing an action project for my university. Do you mind to give me your opinion about this product or about this company? And people are always open to receive students. If you are a consultant, it's much harder for you to have this type of conversation. So I would say those three things, and there is also one comparison, HP. We did a comparison. We asked the client how happy they were with the consultants. Let's say the level of satisfaction was very high with the consultants that were, let's say, senior consultants. But what it was very surprising for us is that the MBA team was almost at the same level of the senior consultants, because the clients were saying they were bringing to us fresh ideas. They were discussing about things the consultants were not bringing to the table. So the level of satisfaction, I think the combination between the senior consultant and the interns, let's say, is perfect.
That's great. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Cristanto. As we wrap this core part of the topic, and then we're going to go to the discussion, another discussion. What Manuel has shared with us is, if you use a robust methodology, you have a disciplined program, a cohort-based program with isolating teams. Each team is supported by a coach who is senior, and that coach can manage 10 teams or 5 teams, and therefore you get leverage. You can get the quality outputs of a McKinsey or a BCG or any other of those companies. But you need to be disciplined, and you need to be on top of the game, and you need to have a program structure. What Manuel and the team, Don and others have put together is exactly that. It's a team design, program design, that if you go talk to any of your import-export organizations of your countries and say, do we want to take our companies international? The answer is going to be, of course. Do you have a mechanism to do that for low cost? And they'll say, not really. Well, here's low cost because it's scaled in parallel, same methodology, same software-driven enabled. We got a lower cost teams working on it, student teams. And on there, we get the quality because there's a coach mentor, and then a rigorous GIMI methodology, which sits on top of that, that can be proven again and again. It does deliver. And the word innovation is the name of the game here. We will help them innovate the experience, innovate the channel, innovate the offering, innovate the business model, innovate that. And that is the hook, which is different than other people who are saying just export. This is not exporting. This is actually customizing and really, really giving a feel for the country you're moving into. So with that, Manuel Mendes, manuel.mendes@ixlcenter.net. Please reach out to him and let's grow this program, because every time we run this program from a GIMI perspective, we get close to about 200 people trained, and they get certificates from GIMI. And the more programs, the more small companies, the more we expand. So with that, Manuel, thank you very much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and everything else. And for all of us, the expression of GIMI is always together we can. And as Ron will always add at the end, and we will. Together we can, and we will. Okay. So thank you, Manuel. Any last words, and then we will go to the section.
Sure. Actually, I love the fact you said this is not an export program. Go international is a little bit different, and I would say we need to think, let's say, broader in terms of internationalization. Internationalization is not only selling abroad, is also learning abroad to implement new ideas in your home country. And I believe we are, little by little, we are demystifying this idea of exporting only. No, we could learn, we could adapt our product, we could test and be in different markets very successfully as we are in our home country. So thank you very much for everyone. I will try to answer here also the questions in the chat while we are wrapping up the session.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me share something now with everybody who's still on the call with us. And what I want to share is, let me just make sure you guys can see what I'm sharing. It should be a PowerPoint slide. So let's begin. The whole idea over here is this. First and foremost, when we look at our programs at GIMI, we want to build things at scale, right? So when you look at the program itself, look at the y-axis as influence. Who are the people we're trying to influence on innovation, or at what level? and what kind of impact are we trying to make on innovation with these individuals. So we have a program called GIMI Impact. GIMI Impact takes impact on kids and the individual, and the thing they're going to be able to do is not a lot. It's kind of incremental impact, the young, and GIMI Impact. And Arila has presented that program to us, saying, can we take a program for GIMI Impact kids in high school, grade school across the globe? Then we got a second program, which is basically our GIMI level training, GIMI 1, 2, 3, and 4. And GIMI 1 through 2, 3, and 4 is about training individuals, training teams, and ultimately training innovation managers so that they're able to do more than just incremental and driving it towards breakthrough innovations. And then when we look at the highest level of impact is strategic, and this is where we have the ability to train CEOs and leaders and other people. And those are programs for building capacity, mindset, capacity in terms of thinking, in terms of learning, knowledge, and skills. It does not organize the company to necessarily create the results, but it certainly is building the human capacity for people to know what the mindsets are needed and what the tools are needed, right? And that's what GIMI is very solid in, training, programs, and all that, working from individuals all the way to strategy. But now what we saw today was programs. So when we look at programs and we organize the access in terms of offerings, current offerings and new offerings, markets, current markets and new markets, we can see that we have different types of programs that fit perfectly, and there is innovation happening. The one that we heard earlier on was the 2X program that Julie will be talking about again in a couple of weeks, or next week, I believe.
Next week.
Next week. And the 2X program is essentially benchmark and replicate. It is not about innovating tremendously. It's incremental innovations, because small companies don't need to come up with the biggest things in the world. They don't need to completely change everything. Existing businesses, what should we do? And the 2X program has been very successful in the US. It's been running in Barcelona. It's been running in Brazil and other places. And these are usually targeted to small companies because they're geographically isolated from a competitor. So location is their advantage. And what they want is ideas from other locations. You bring them in and you basically do what you have to do. Small companies typically enjoy the 2X program. And here again, we can do the GIMI program for that. Similarly, we've talked about the 10X program. 10X programs apply to medium-sized companies who are trying to get growth, and the current growth that they're having is not coming. It's not happening as fast as they want it to. And they're kind of tired and the revenue has kind of gone flat. They say, what else can we do? What are the new things we can do that will drive growth? And these programs are running in Colombia, they're running in Brazil, they're running in Hong Kong and other places, where small to medium-sized companies looking for new offerings in their current markets. They're not thinking of moving to a new market. They're okay with the markets they're in. They just want to see if they can offer new products, new services, new business models, new channels in that area. And that's a 10X program. And just for your benefit, the 2X program, we have trained probably over 400 companies through that accelerator model. The 10X program has done almost 1,000. 1,000 companies have gone through this program to do that. Now, today we had another presentation from Manuel called GoGlobal. GoGlobal is all those companies which want to go to other geographies, and they are lacking knowledge of that new geography, language, culture, many things, which is very difficult to do this. And that's the GoGlobal program. And here we may not really change the offering too much, but there is some degree of change required on it. So any degree of changes is where the thinking is going to happen. But GoGlobal allows us to talk to another group of people who are basically saying, I'm pretty happy with my product offering. Can I take it to new market segments, right? And in those market segments, what do I have to tweak? The market innovation is really the name of the game on the top left-hand corner. Maybe all of business innovation is on the bottom right-hand corner. But the top right is the most interesting also. These are people, big companies like Hyundai, big companies like Samsung, big companies like Pepsi and Coke, who are basically saying, hey, I need not only new products, but I also need to target new market segments, new experiences, the baby boomers, the aging population, the new centennials, and new technologies and everything else. and we're looking for something really breakthrough. What we are saying is innovation is happening in all 4 of those quadrants. But the degree of innovation that we have to do is different, but we can use the same methodology and decrease some of the effort. In the case of the top right, we really have to look into the future 5 years out, 10 years out. We really need to look at what other industries are doing that could completely transform us. On the bottom left, all we got to do is ask the question, what's going on in another city? What's going on in another country? What's going on somewhere else? And we can benchmark and replicate with some minor tweaks. GoGlobal says new markets for sure. And in there, what tweaks do we need to do? On the right-hand side, innovation is really our core business products and offering are not giving us growth anymore, but we are happy in the geography we are in. So what new things can we do? Leveraging our existing assets, the market. So I'm going to stop over here for you guys just to think about the framing of this thing. And then what is the powerful thing that we have been able to do is this. And it's essentially, we take these programs and we simplify the world-class methodology. We create a program management system around it, a disciplined execution. We make it scalable because of the digital platform, and we get a network of mentors. Put that together and we can design programs. And then we say, we aren't going to do this once. We're going to do it the first time to learn, the second time to improve, and we iterate it. And every cycle of iteration means we're going to get better, and we are agile, and we are pivoting, and we are applying all the tools of innovation on our own programs to make sure that what we are coming up with is bulletproof, it's better, differentiated, and really doing really well. So I just want to give you the structure of where we are going. The programs allow us to scale in the thousands, and I need us, all of us, to think about how we're going to get to 1 million for GIMI, 1 million certificates in 5 years, and a community of people who are all GIMI people and all talking the same language of, breakthrough innovations, all talking in the same way of dots and connecting the dots, all talking in the same way in terms of new fields of play. And as a result, common language, common framework, common processes, tweaked carefully to make it scalable. I would like to just see reactions, thoughts on this framework, and thoughts on how you can see now the big picture of how we can actually, each one of you could create something specific for your own local geographic need and markets. I'm going to stop talking. And
Just one quick comment, Hitendra. I would take that same circular graphic in the middle of the left-hand side and put it in the middle of the right-hand side, because this is all about thinking and acting differently, which is at the core of the GIMI certification and training activities. So I think it's in both of them, and both of them can dramatically help get us to that kind of million number. And they do. We do GIMI training for all of the companies participating in those programs.
Ron, you asked for it, and it just happened.
Done.
That's fast.
Bob, you had some comments.
Yes, can we get a copy of maybe not the last 2 minutes, or put the picture in that Ron asked for, and then take your verbal explanation. That's a great marketing tool, because it explains to someone else without me trying to do it what you're doing. And it's a great tool that I can do to start off my course in the fall. And so that's one. Second is the slides that we just went through with regard to Brazil. That would be very useful to Doug Holt, who was on last week. He would have been on this week, except he's on a different conference, and he's actually on the plane while we're going here. He is my designated. We're going to actually get something going in Alberta, so it's taken quite a while. And I think for the rest of you, if you can take the tools now, which are video tools and the PowerPoint tools, I think it's going to be a lot easier to explain, because we're not doing the explanation. Hitendra and Ron and the other people are doing the explanation. That makes life a lot simpler. And all we have to do then is to figure out, okay, how much does it cost? How do we start? And that's much different than us trying to explain without having all the materials that you very carefully worked on the last few years. It's really great.
Great. Thank you,
Very
Bob.
helpful.
Manuel will reach out, and we are slowly pulling all these things together. I would like to say fast would be better, but we have an ace team right now in GIMI that we have never moved that as fast as we're moving. So we're moving really well right now. I think the last 2 years, you guys have seen progress of a different level and urgency. And so this goes to Erila, Larissa, Laura, who are far on the team. Ron's always beating and pushing the drum, saying, come on, guys, where are you with Innovation 4.0? What are we doing with these other topics? And so we are moving in a different way for the first time, but we also have partners like Sabrai. We got partners like MinSciences, the Ministry of Science of Colombia. We got the Qatar government is interested in working with us now. We got the Dubai Government Excellence Program. We've got Hong Kong universities. We got Yonsei University and all those other universities which comes together. And we got partners like Vince from Ayala and all the big corporations. It's a tremendous network that we have developed now, which now, unfortunately and fortunately, if we want to stop, we are not allowed to stop anymore. So I want to be very clear about this thing. If any of you are tired, sorry, we got to keep on going. We started the journey. We are almost halfway up the mountain, maybe. I would like to say we're halfway up the mountain. Maybe Ron will say we're just in the foothills, but we are not allowed to go backwards. With the momentum is started, and there's a lot of people expecting us to take this to the next level, and we need to, because if we do, again, I believe, and you guys all believe, if we train 1 million people on ideas, innovation, strategy, growth, we're going to make a big impact that our kids will be happy that we did this work. Yeah. Guys, other questions or thoughts? Cristanto's got thumbs up. Cristanto's been asking me to send him some stuff. I owe him some stuff, Cristanto. I recall. Enrique is not here, but I think Enrique was also collaborating with Manuel in creating a virtual future, virtual fairs and everything else. So it's not that Enrique is not here, it's too bad. But Ron started this conversation of GIMI having partnerships with centers of excellence who have got deep content. A center of excellence for aging. That's what Nick is. There's a center of excellence for green energy with Paul and the team in Dubai. We want to create a center of excellence for metaverse. And the metaverse center of excellence could be with Enrique. Because Enrique is creating an incredible metaverse that I've not seen in my life, in my recent life anyway. I'm sure Google and other people have other ideas on it, but what these guys are doing is amazing also. So
yeah, we just signed an MOU HP with NetStairs, which is basically the biggest organization changing the world of remote work and entertainment, basically. And Enrique is the Chief Innovation Officer of this organization. So this is one of the centers that HP is mentioning right now, focused on metaverse, and many others are coming. We are about to sign an MOU with Nika, represented by Nick, and with the Desert Energy. And for sure, we are looking also to other, trends that are shaping the world right now. And the main basically focus or goal here is to transfer knowledge, and GIMI always to be on the top of these new trends and latest know-how that is coming right now, and it's really transforming the world.
Thank you, Erila. So think strategically. GIMI is not powerful as an organization if it just teaches people how to think about innovation and drives ideas to commercialization. We have another role to play. One is the knowledge role of what is innovation, but then there is the content role. What are the most important trends? What are the most important things that are going to happen? And then we use the ideas to drive them forward. So we got issues with climate change. We got issues with aging. We got our opportunities. Let's use the word opportunities in GIMI. Opportunities with aging, and opportunities with energy, and opportunities with quantum computing, and opportunities with education itself. And all these opportunities, we need expertise in this group. Whether it's you individually having the expertise or a center of excellence that the world recognizes. Now imagine GIMI surrounded by all the centers of excellences, and their partner is GIMI for taking their ideas to commercialization. So every one of the centers of excellence, we want to give them an innovation Olympics to generate body of knowledge ideas. We want to give them an accelerator, a turnkey accelerator. And now the accelerator is powered by GIMI. The content is generated by the center, and that powerful intersection is going to be amazing. And then the ultimate idea is all the centers come together and talk to each other, and their intersection of aging with energy, with health, with education, and what are we going to come up with next? Our story has just started. We have just climbed a small mountain. Our mountain feels good. We're in a good place. But we have a great, great promise of what we can do and opportunities. And not many people can bring this thing together because we have the networks. We just need to be focused on execution on that. Bob, Vince, anybody else who might want to just add some commentary to this thing, to the strategy that we are beginning to unfold, first by trying and then basically making it a strategy.
Just one comment on the connection between our various products, the various market segments, and the GIMI's training and certification. I think that what we've always said about democratizing innovation and really kind of democratizing the whole certification system is that it creates a common language. And I think when we have everybody working on these different problems or with different products, if we have student teams working on an international problem, which still requires people to think and act differently quickly. Now, not think and act differently over the next 3 years, but think and act differently tomorrow to get results at the next day. That still requires those same kind of certifications. So we really need to drive to make sure that all the students, all the clients, all the partners do get regularly exposed and trained in the appropriate GIMI certification levels. Number one, obviously, that gets us to the million, but more importantly, is that people can really talk much faster together because they understand the terms, they understand what a platform is, they understand the emerging and disruptive trends that are affecting their industries in similar ways. So I think that really thinking about how we make sure that every time we talk about this, we bring in the training and certification angle that GIMI offers is really important and serves all of us well to do that.
Excellent. Okay, so I think next week, Julie will be talking about the 2X program. And the 2X program is I'll just give the pitch to it at a high level, is helping small businesses innovate and actually try and grow, not by 10X and not by 100X, 2X. And the 2X seems reasonable, doesn't sound scary, and achievable for a small company. A 10X company is a medium-sized company which really has ambitions to become from a 10 million to 100 million or 100 million to $1 billion company. So 10X is a reasonable expectation for those sort of CEOs. And then there are the $1 billion bets, and those are the big companies that comes next. So next week, we're talking about small companies, which every city, every mayor, every local community is trying to figure out how to do it. Specifically targeting in the US, minority-owned businesses, and therefore indigenous, BIPOC, the communities. Any other announcements before we wrap this meeting up? The time is 10:38. We have gone over time. So I just want to make sure first, everybody, thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, stick around. I'll be here for the next 5 minutes. And otherwise, everybody go back, go innovate, go change the world, go inspire 1,000 people. We need 1 million. Let's provoke each other, not just today, but every single hour from now till the next meeting. And I want to just leave with one point Ron made. A lot of people who get older usually think about retiring, and therefore they don't care about what happens anymore. The thing is, with what Ron is saying is, no, we're running out of time and we got to create urgency. And if you don't create urgency, innovation will never happen. And so urgency is the name of the game. So if you're young, you might say, I got 50 years ahead of me. No urgency. If you're older, there is an urgency if you really care. Ron cares. He's saying there's urgency here. right? So let's also not only have the mantra of together we can, but I want to keep on adding this other one next to GIMI. Whatever we can do tomorrow, let's do today. And whatever we can do today, let's do now. And with that, you guys have a fantastic rest of the week and looking forward to some amazing results next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
you.